So what's happening?
Okay, we are live now.
Okay. So why not give an opening address, invite people to join, and then
So we
go on.
are having a Zoom meeting on Zoom, and we invite everyone to come and participate in our Prabhupada Nuga forum, which we call Istagosti.
And why not point out that this paper is an argument for the eternal existence of ISKCON,
Okay.
or the continuous presence of existence of ISKCON.
Okay. Origin of ISKCON. Lord Chaitanya is a combined manifestation of Radha and Krishna.
Wait a second. Above that is Bobby Hebert's statement, ISKCON is not created in Krishna Loka.
This is the top of the email. I don't have anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let me read it out loud for you, since
Okay.
I guess I missed it. It said, ISKCON is not created in Krishna Loka. It is a branch of the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. Are we distinguishing that Radha and Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya are not from Krishna Loka? That's my question. So keep going.
Lord Chaitanya is a combined manifestation of Radha and Krishna, everything emanating from Lord Chaitanya. Radha and Krishna are from Krishna Loka, i.e. ISKCON. Emanating from the body of Lord Chaitanya is also from Krishna Loka. Therefore, transcendentally manifested for distributing the holy name and practicing sadhana bhakti on the Kanistha Adhikari platform. Remember Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. We are on the Brahman platform of self-recognition as pure spirit soul. When we are purified on the Kanistha Adhikari platform, we can progress to the Madhyamadhikari platform under the protection of Vishnu Paramatma. From that Madhyam platform, one can gradually transform his Kanistha Bhakti into Prem by gradually creating a reciprocal relationship with Krishna that when perfected becomes your eternal rasa. This is managed by Paramatma on the transformative Madhyam platform and is perfected on the Uttama Adhikari platform. More details upon request.
Now, the next statement is by Bobby Hebert.
In our teaching, statements like you make are well-meaning but not accurate. Yes, this is a transcendental movement, so we are linked that way, but your explanations are your own. If you find an inaccuracy in my statements, then as a Vaishnava philosopher, I believe that you are obliged to proclaim the actual Siddhanta, no?
Then he writes,
as far as Istagosti, can you explain how it is to be conducted and what is the outcome according to Prabhupada's philosophy? I have sent you a paper on Istagosti from some years ago. The basic idea is that Istagosti is meant to be conducted on the floor in a circle with no one person in that group of superior importance to any other member of the group, jiva to jiva. Srila Prabhupada has said that not only the cowherd boys join us in that circle, but Lord Krishna sits with us as an equal as well. That is the mood of Krishna Loka. Srila Prabhupada began Istagosti in the early days of the movement so that his disciples would have a venue for open, equal discussion of various theological points that were requiring explanation. Needless to say, the power-hungry leaders of ISKCON would stand in front of the group of the devotees and tell them what to think and do, which is the opposite format directed by Srila Prabhupada. You can look up Istagosti in the database and find some of the letters in which Srila Prabhupada mentioned Istagosti.
Okay. So what should we do here? Should we go through it and discuss it line by line, or should we go down to that thing that says I meant to write, or what should we do? Or do you have that even?
Um,
Do you have a thing in blue?
no.
So that's the end of it from your point of view?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we go through it line by line and see what we can make of it?
Okay. Lord Chaitanya is a combined manifestation of Radha and Krishna, everything emanating from Lord Chaitanya.
Okay. He had written that ISKCON is not created in Krishna Loka. It is a branch of the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. Now, I don't understand how he can come to the conclusion that Lord Chaitanya does not come from Krishna Loka, considering that Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined. What part does not come from Krishna Loka? And why do we say, what is the difference? If ISKCON is not created, how can we say ISKCON is not created in Krishna Loka if it is a branch of the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya? We have to establish the simple fact that Srila Prabhupada is not an expansion or a manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada is an Uttamadhikari, which means that he is part and parcel, a liberated, pure devotee, part and parcel of Krishna, in his rasa with Krishna. That's where the ISKCON GBC gurus and everything got all screwed up, because they think that once you're a guru, you can help people go to Krishna Loka. But the standard is in the fifth verse of the Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, that only it says the Madhyam and the Kanisarakaris can accept disciples on the same level that they are. But the person cannot make much advancement under their insufficient guidance. So it goes from there to Prabhupada saying, therefore, accept only an Uttama Adhikari as your spiritual master. And in that one verse and purport, he states that clearly, unequivocally, 3 times. And 3 times of repetition of anything in the Vedic etiquette establishes that that is the supreme absolute truth. Okay? Right. So anyone who thinks that the guru doesn't have to be a Uttama Adhikari doesn't understand the process of going back to Godhead. How can someone who's not already back to Godhead take anyone back to Godhead? I mean, it's again the Christian Catholic approach that if you are a loyal church member, you'll die and go to heaven. Where is the indication from anything Prabhupada wrote that that is the case? Bobby Hebert, who is busy making objections here, states clearly that he is a Catholic. And I knew that he was a Catholic. So he's thinking of ISKCON in terms of being a Catholic. He used to be a GBC. Now he's no longer a GBC. Because he's no longer a GBC, nonetheless, he's acting as though he's still a cardinal of the Catholic Church, even though he's no longer a GBC, ISKCON GBC cardinal of the ISKCON Church. So that's where he's getting stuck. He can only see things from the material point of view, unfortunately. And he thinks that if you read the Bible often enough, salvation will become a reality for you. And if you read Prabhupada's writings enough, then all the answers will come to you. But that's not what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, you read my books in order to understand why you chant. This movement is not based on Gyan or book reading. This movement is based on Sankirtan, or congregational chanting of the holy name. To prove Bobby Hebert mistaken, Lord Chaitanya was the greatest scholar of his time, even as a teenager. And he had a bunch of teenagers around him that were also brilliant minds that were dealing with what is called, what was it called? Syllogistic? No, not syllogistic. Might have been syllogistic reasoning, where you could argue a topic up one side with using accurate grammar and articulation, and then argue it down the other side, modifying the grammar and articulation just slightly, so that you prove the very thing you proved to be true, you now prove to be false. So this is called Nyayak philosophy, and Lord Chaitanya was a top expert. When he became initiated by his spiritual master, who gave him the Hare Krishna mantra, his spiritual master said, "You're too much of a fool to be dealing with these Nyayak philosophical points. It's just a mind game for you. It doesn't have any relevance to your deliverance or the deliverance of others," basically, he was saying. So therefore, just chant Hare, you're a fool, so just do what a fool should do, just chant Hare Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya came back to his group of teenage fan club, and they all were eager to hear what he had to learn from his guru, and etc. And he said to them, "My guru said I'm too much of a fool to concentrate on philosophical issues like Nyayak philosophy. He told me just chant Hare Krishna. So now that I'm initiated by my guru, I have to tell all of you who are waiting for me to speak about Nyayak philosophy, you chant Hare Krishna. Go ahead, chant Hare Krishna. And that will perfect your lives. Forget about all of this philosophical stuff. Book learning is not part of what we're doing here. And philosophy is not what we're doing here. And arguing topics up one side and down the other is, again, not what we're doing here. So,
Nicely explained.
thank you. So thank you very much. So his followers stopped following. They fell away. They wanted cleverness. They didn't want the supreme absolute truth. And they did not want to include non-Brahmins and stuff like that in their discourses. They wanted to be superior. If they were Brahmins, they wanted to be superior Brahmins, so that even Brahmins would look up to them. And that was their objective and goal.
Okay, next sentence. Radha and Krishna are from Krishna Loka.
Yeah, well, that touches on Bobby Hebert's sort of Catholic approach to saying that Prabhupada is representative or manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, not Radha and Krishna. So I'm pointing out that Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna. And Radha and Krishna are from Krishna Loka. They came down here simply because Krishna wanted to understand the basis of Radharani's devotion for him, which he could not understand. He's God, he understands everything. How can we say Krishna does not understand? But he doesn't understand this one point. And the one point that he doesn't understand is the fact that Radharani, when she offers her not just her devotion, but the devotion of all the manjaris, devotion of all the gopis, the devotion of all the cowherd boys, the devotion of all the gopas and gopas and Madhajis and all of the rasas, all the rasas in Krishna Loka are brought to Radharani by their designated participants. And those rasas are brought in such a way that Krishna is given this huge influx of spontaneous, immediate bhakti from his devotees. But there's one thing he cannot understand, is the fact that when he's been given this great bundle of transcendental rasa gifts from Radharani and the principal gopis, Lalita, Vishaka, etc., and with all of that bhakti, he cannot understand one thing. And that one thing is why he wanted to come down in the mood of Radharani instead of in the mood of Krishna with Radharani on his arm. And that was as he is relishing what Radharani has conveyed to him of the rasa of all the residents of Krishna Loka, plus the residents of other planets like ourselves who are feebly trying to chant Hare Krishna, but with some success, make Krishna pleased by our bhakti and our devotion, and we are succeeding to some infinitesimal degree, not bad since we're infinitesimal ourselves in size. So what happens is that he does not understand what she has come next. What is next from Radharani? While he's relishing, she's gathering. So he wanted to understand, what is that like? So he came down as Radha and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's of the skies of Radha and Krishna, not as skies per se, because Lord Chaitanya came with the mission to deliver everyone by chanting Hare Krishna. But wait, isn't that Radharani's mission? Is that everyone should glorify Krishna and thereby experience their deliverance. So Lord Chaitanya made that possible through the Shaktivish avatar called the Hare Krishna mantra, or the holy name. And that holy name was manifested by Lord Chaitanya in behalf of Radharani. So what happened when he comes here as Radharani? Well, he can be the person who's gathering all the bhakti and then understanding what it's like to give it to Krishna, who he also is in the body of Lord Chaitanya. So that explains the situation of why Lord Chaitanya came to planet Earth. He was desirous of understanding Radharani's mood, which he could not understand while relishing the mood of the gifts that she offered him of bhakti of all of his parts and parcels in Krishna Loka, as well as other places like planet Earth, insofar as we are actually offering bhakti. We are, but to what degree, that is also added. Okay, that's it.
Okay. I.e. ISKCON, emanating from the body of Lord Chaitanya, is also from Krishna Loka. Therefore, transcendentally manifested for distributing the holy name and practicing sadhana bhakti on the Kanistha Adhikari platform. Remember Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan? We are on the Brahman platform of self-recognition as pure spirit soul. Yes,
so that is the Kanistha Adhikari platform is ISKCON. ISKCON is the Kanistha Adhikari platform. Why? Because if you join ISKCON and follow the rules and regulations and don't take money for being a puchari, if you act as a devotee under Prabhupada's direct guidance, meaning through his instructions, even if he's not personally present, the net result is that you will experience the Kanistha Adhikari platform, or Brahman, meaning, I am not this body, I am spirit soul. We say that in the temples when we're in class. Aham Brahmasmi, I am not this body, I am spirit soul. So what does that indicate? It indicates that that is Brahman level. Brahman, Prabhupada describes the Brahman level is like a train coming down the track. And when you see the train coming at nighttime, you see this big light in the front of the train. That's the headlamp of the train to make sure they don't hit a cow or a pickup truck or something like that.
So Ramachandra just entered the room.
Jai Ramachandra Prabhu, please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
So we're very happy to hear your voice. We realize you probably will not be with us for the entire session, but when you go in and out, please say you're leaving if you're going to leave,
okay,
so we don't ask you a question and make ourselves look as though you're not on TV.
Sure. Okay, continue.
So how have you been, Ramachandra Prabhu?
Let's continue the discussion, Prabhu. I'm just, listening. So I'm doing all right, Prabhu. I'm just with my daughter here, so that's why.
Wonderful. Can you please give my blessing and loving blessing to your daughter, that she will go back to Godhead and take millions of people with her, following her back to Godhead.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, how are you?
Good.
Glorious to Prabhupada. I don't know
Haribol,
if you can see me
Vrinda.
or not, but there you are. Tulsi.
Say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
What are you doing?
Jai, are you happy?
Yes.
And it's nice seeing your dad, isn't it?
Me.
Your dad is a very great soul, and he wants you to go back to Godhead too. So do you want to go back to Godhead and become the direct servants of Radha, Krishna, and all of the residents of Krishna Loka? Would you like to be in Krishna Loka, which is a very beautiful place full of loving people, loving beings who love each other and love Radha and Krishna? Would you like to be there someday? Maybe?
Yes.
Do you like that idea? It's okay, you don't have to like the idea yet, but as time goes on, I think you'll come to like it immensely because it will be the perfection of your life. And there's nothing like perfection of life to make a person happy with their life. Anyhow, you're looking very good. Can you see me?
Yeah.
You can see me?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see myself. So that's nice. You can see me. That's nice. So your father is a very great devotee, and he loves you with his whole heart. You know that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could love you as much as your father loves you. Maybe your mommy loves you that much, but your father definitely does. So is everything okay?
Yeah.
Is everything all right?
Yeah.
What did you
Good.
say?
Okay, Ramachandra, back to the meeting.
Yes. Back to the meetings, Prabhus.
Jai, are you driving?
Yes, I'm driving.
Okay, that's nice. So, so where were we? Look, Rupa, Manjari Prabhu.
The Brahman platform of self-recognition as pure spirit soul.
Ah, yes. We are on the Brahman platform in the neophyte stage. How do we know it's the neophyte stage? Because we have to follow the four regulative principles. If we were not neophytes, no one would have to tell us, don't take intoxication, don't eat meat, don't gamble, like that. No one would have to tell us that. Don't chase after women that are not your wife. No one would tell you that because you would already know it. But because we're on the beginning stage, we have to be told that constantly, and we have to constantly remember that that is the requirement to be a devotee of Krishna, is to follow the four regulative principles, which are the basis of how we can become pure devotees of Krishna. But that's the Kanista platform. After that is mentioned the Madhyamadikari platform. Oh, we haven't read that yet. Okay, so the holy name and practicing sadhana bhakti on the Kanista platform. Remember, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, we're on the Brahman platform of self-recognition as pure spirit soul. So go ahead, Rupa.
When we are purified on the Kanista Adhikari platform, we can progress to the Madhyamadikari platform under the protection of Vishnu Paramatma. From that Madhyam platform, one can gradually transform his Kanista Bhakti into Prem by gradually creating a reciprocal relationship with Krishna that when perfected becomes your eternal rasa.
Yes, so that we are in ISKCON, the Kanista Adhikari platform. For some weird reason, the GBC has decided that Kanistas can become gurus. So they project out and take the Kanistas out of the temple and put them on chairs that are covered with velvet and feed them opulently and tell them everybody that these are now gurus. Well, that's ridiculous. We don't need that sort of guru. What we need is Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is on the Uttama Adhikari platform, or pure devotional service, you see. So when that is the case, we don't need to go for low-level gurus. We can stick with Prabhupada. And that's where the big revelation is about to take place in ISKCON, is that Prabhupada is the eternal spiritual master of the Krishna consciousness movement of Lord Chaitanya, and that he is the person who will deliver us and bring us all back to Godhead over the entire span of 10,000 years of the golden age of Kali. Okay?
Okay.
So where did we finish up?
Okay, the next line is, this is managed by Paramatma on the transformative Madhyam platform and is perfected on the Uttama Adhikari platform. More
Because
detail.
we've gone over this many, many times on this platform, but I will just like to say in short that this is managed by Paramatma on the transformative Madhyam platform. On the Madhyam Adhikari platform, we go from being purified materialist devotees up to the Madhyam platform, which is we can observe Krishna Loka, and then the Uttama Adhikari platform, where we are entering Krishna Loka ourselves as pure devotees of Lord Krishna. So we were using the example of the train, where the train is coming down the tracks. The Madhyam Adhikari is compared to the headlamp, which you can see. And let's say, oh, so that's God. That is God. But no, that's just Brahman. There are those who worship Brahman as God, but they don't get very far in terms of perfection of life, but they can actually enter the Brahmajyoti, etc., and think they're doing well. But that's not the point. On the next step, when you're on the train platform, up comes the train, and you can look through the windows of the train. You can't hear anything, but you can see that there are people on the train. When you see that there are people on the train, you can see that they're doing things with each other. They're eating, they're talking, they're playing games, they're doing all sorts of things to amuse themselves on the train. And so that's the Madhyam Adhikari platform, the ability to understand Krishna Loka without being a member of Krishna Loka yet. Then the third platform, the Prabhupada says, is the Uttama Adhikari platform. And the Uttama Adhikari platform, Uttama means ultimate, Madhyam means medium, and Uttama means ultimate, or the highest form of rasa with Krishna, is when Krishna is so pleased by what you are doing, your activity as a devotee, to please him, not as a deity on earth, because deities are made of marble, but they are worshipped. It doesn't matter. No, deities are Krishna himself, but the deity is worshipped in the mood of Vishnu, awe and reverence, because the Kanisa Adhikari cannot worship God intimately or spontaneously. In the Madhyam Adhikari platform, a person is learning how to worship. Then in the Uttama Adhikari platform, that is when Krishna and the devotee finally make a connection that is called rasa, or relishable, eternal relishable relationship. The curtain of Maya rolls up. The devotee can then come can see Krishna face to face, and comes under the protection of Yoga Maya, which is the Maya or illusion that keeps you in your rasa with Krishna, so you don't get spaced out thinking maybe you want to become Mother Yasoda, or maybe you want to become a gopi. Then you're with your rasa with Krishna, whatever that one is. And then in that Uttama Adhikari platform, Uttama means ultimate. In that Uttama Adhikari platform, you and Krishna have a reciprocal relationship based on his pleasure in the way you're acting and pleasing him, and your pleasure on the way he's receiving your love for him. Those two things are absolutely powerful and the final stage of pure devotional service.
Jai.
Joy.
Okay.
Is that the end of it?
Yeah. Next line. This is managed by Paramatma on the transformative Madhyam platform and is perfected on the Uttama Adhikari platform. More details upon request.
Okay.
I think
Then
you
what
covered
does,
that.
and he says,
He
down
says,
below?
in our teaching statements, like you make, are well-meaning but not accurate. Yes, this is a transcendental movement, so we are linked that way, but your explanations are your own.
How does he know that? What is his basis for saying my explanations are my own? Oh no, we still have more. Do we still have more text?
Yeah.
Okay. He says my explanations are my own. And I would like to add, hopefully your explanations are your own. Any devotee's explanation, if accurate, is a transcendental rendition of your eternal rasa with Krishna. So why should it not be your own? Whose explanation should it be? Somebody else's? Are you just a servant of somebody else? Or are you empowered by Prabhupada to have an explanation based on what he himself has said that is accurate? Okay, keep going.
If you find an inaccuracy in my statements, then as a Vaishnava philosopher, I believe that you are obliged to state, proclaim the actual Siddhanta, no?
Then he asks another unrelated question. Go ahead.
As far as this to Gosti, can you explain how it is to be conducted and what is the outcome according to Prabhupada's philosophy?
You see, I ask him to find an inaccuracy in my statements, and he doesn't bother to go there. He says, oh, you're no good. People don't like you like that. Okay, I don't even know who he's talking about. I mean, I've run down the street and had homeless people spit at me. Is that one of the people he's referring to? I don't know if that's who he's referring to. Some people don't like you, so I don't know. That's not a Vaishnava way of approaching philosophical content or subject matter.
Okay, I have sent you a paper on Istagosti from
Wait, I haven't. Oh, not yet. If you find inaccuracy in my statements, and as a Vaishnava philosopher, I believe that you're obliged to state, proclaim the actual Siddhanta. No, he absolutely cannot or does not or is unwilling to do that. All he does is says, people don't like you. Well, that's fine. I don't want to be liked by people. I only want to be liked by those who are self-realized. So keep going. And then he says, as far as this goes, can you explain how it has become? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, right. I've sent you. Go ahead.
I have sent you a paper on Istagosti from some years ago.
So go ahead.
The basic idea is that Istagosti is meant to be conducted on the floor in a circle with no one person in that group of superior importance to any other member of the group, jiva to jiva.
And when I say conducted on the floor, I don't mean that you're standing on the floor, you're sitting on the floor. Conducted sitting on the floor is what I should have written. Go ahead.
Srila Prabhupada has said that not only the cowherd boys join us in that circle, but Lord Krishna sits with us as an equal as well. That is the mood of Krishna Loka.
And that is the meaning of Istagosti. Gosti refers to cowherd boys. Gosta Vihari. So go ahead.
Srila Prabhupada began Istagosti in the early days of the movement so that his disciples would have a venue for open, equal discussion of various theological points that were requiring explanation.
Yeah, he was inundated by people. You see, in the beginning, when he had only like 40 devotees, disciples, everybody wrote to Prabhupada with questions. And the main motive they had was so they would get a letter back. So they'd sit there in the temple saying, I got a letter from Prabhupada. And it was, oh, tell us, what did he say? You know, so they became that was their queen or king for a day moment, was reading out loud their letter from Prabhupada. Well, obviously that got the more devotees came into the movement, the more out of control that got. So Prabhupada instituted Istagosti so that the devotees would sit down together, discuss these things, and then send them a letter with their conclusion, with their siddhanta. So go ahead.
Needless to say, the power-hungry leaders of ISKCON would stand in front of the group of devotees and tell them what to think and do, which is the opposite format directed by Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah. So I was in the Los Angeles temple, New Dwarka, and I would see Istagosti. There'd be a big, like 50, 60 devotees sitting there in rows, and the temple president would be standing there with a microphone conducting Istagosti, meaning he was telling them what to do and think. And they would sit there saying, well, this is Prabhupada's Istagosti, so we have to obey what he says we should do and think. But that's not Istagosti. It's not even close to Istagosti. It is the opposite of Istagosti. It is a tyranny. The difference is that in the Istagosti, and it should be, let me make it clearly understood, that when you come into an Istagosti, like a meeting in a temple, well, it'll be probably all or mostly temple devotees. You'll have the Pujari, you'll have the Brahmins, you're going to have the temple president, you're going to have the treasurer, you're going to have the Sankirtan leader, you're going to have all sorts of important people to whom you must offer deference and somewhat obedience when you see them in your normal daily life. If the temple president says, do this, then you go and do it. And if the temple commander says, I can give you a toothbrush on Tuesday because I'm out of toothbrushes today, that's the answer you can accept, and you have to come back on Tuesday. That's the end of it. If the Pujari says, well, if a sannyasi says, I'm so advanced because I've taken sannyas, and meanwhile he's struggling inside with an addiction to cyber porn, and he can't help himself, instead of being able to talk about it openly amongst the devotees, he keeps it to himself until he falls down and runs off with some woman. So that's the practical value of Istagosti. So going even further though, once the doors to Istagosti is open, if someone walks in from the street, they will be invited to sit down in the circle of cowherd boys. Why? Simply because they're jivas and they showed up. Then when they sit down, they can take part and ask their own questions and make their own statements. And if they make a crazy or inaccurate statement, they can be corrected by somebody in the room who knows the answer. So that is how equal Istagosti actually is to include everybody as an equal. Now, when I was the director of the art department, we had to struggle sometimes with the composition of paintings. And when we struggled with the composition of paintings, we had to somehow or other make it all work. When I first got there, there was only 3.5 artists, and they weren't very happy campers. They were all miserable. And what they would do is they'd make a sketch, people would look at it, then they would make a painting, then people would start coming in and tell them how terrible the painting was, and how they had to change it, how the colors and the composition was wrong, and how Krishna doesn't look like that. So it was really a miserable experience. So when I came there, I said, this can't go on, because I came into these meetings or they were critiquing the paintings, there'd be devotees weeping. The artists would be weeping. They put their heart and soul into a painting, and they sit there and are told that it's completely wrong and that it's bogus and it's no good. So we finally I created this system of, first we would have for the things, first Jadharani usually would read from the scripture. And when she read from the scripture, it was not published yet. It was just handwritten edits by Hayagriva on Prabhupada's original transcription from his tape. And we would be listening to Jadharani reading about the pastime of Lord Krishna's pastimes. One picture, it used to be in the temple, unfortunately not there now, but a picture of Draupadi almost being killed by her father and father, Draupadi's father, and that Vasudeva is trying to protect her, and that picture is just on a chariot. Well, that came out of an idea meeting, because what we did was we got everyone to act out the parts. And we told them, here is Krishna, here's the Draupadi, here is Kamsa, and look at what they're doing. And as a result, we tried so many compositions until finally that one clicked. And I said to everyone, freeze. And then we had everybody in the room making little rough sketches. When I say rough sketches, I mean rough, basically scribbles on the paper, because we didn't want ideas that were too rigid. We didn't want ideas that were too idealized and that people would be attached to. I made this hand and I'm attached to this hand and I don't want to change it. No, we just wanted rough sketches. And then people would come in sometimes, just wandered into the room, and I would have them sit down also with a pad of paper, and they would listen to it. They would make sketches. And it wasn't that one sketch was deemed to be better than all the other sketches. What we did was we just worked out our own angst, our own feelings on the composition. Then we started going over the sketches that we came up with and saw which one, not accurately, because there's nothing accurate in the sketch. It wasn't as though the sketch accurately depicted the pastime. It was just emotional. So we said, well, which sketch conveys the emotion and the feeling of what is happening there between Kamsa, Draupadi, and Vasudeva? What is the feeling? And we would pick a sketch, and it wasn't necessarily the sketch by the person who was going to paint the picture either. But when that sketch was selected by everyone by consensus, not majority vote, consensus, when everybody agreed, and we would sit there on our yoga mats until everyone agreed. We would not leave the room until everyone agreed. Not that they had to agree with anyone in particular, but they had to come to a mutual Quaker-like agreement that God is in the heart as Paramatma. He will guide you to which is the best sketch. And they were all rough, crude sketches. So when one rough, crude sketch was developed, came out, sometimes it would be the artist that was going to paint the picture, and sometimes it wouldn't. The artist would be given that picture and said, now, work on another sketch which takes the energy of this picture and develops it into a composition. And then we would have another meeting, as a composition sketch meeting. And we would go over, and this is true for like 15 artists, you see, but I'm just going over one of them, which is the picture of Draupadi. And when they went over that one, we would have a critique of the composition. That was a composition sketch. And then we would say, the next sketch is a detail sketch. It didn't have to be a complete detailed picture, but it should show important details, hands, legs, chariots, stuff, where everything is and how it's formed and what it looks like. So that was what we needed next. And then after that, when that was agreed upon by everybody in the room, and the rule I made was, if you agree on it, you can't go back later in a week from now and disagree with it. Be sure of what you're agreeing to, because you can't go back once you've agreed on it. And they did. And every once in a while, people wanted to go back. And I said, you can't. I'm the director of the art department. And I said, you can't. Of course, sometimes there would be such a huge mistake that we had to, but that is the exception, not the rule. So anyhow, they would come up then with the next thing, a color sketch. So there would be the color sketch. Then they get their canvas and they would use a projector to transfer the development sketch onto the canvas. Then they would have a long plank with a little rail under it that would be, say, maybe 6-7 feet long. And they would put all the little sketches in a row there. So there'd never be a time when they didn't see the idea sketch, which is just a scribble, and never a time when they wouldn't see the development sketch, when they wouldn't see the detail sketch, the color sketch. All those things would be there. And they all had to be agreed upon by every single person in the room, artist or not. So if there was 14, 15 artists, depending on the month, I suppose, then there would be 14 or 15 artists offering their basically expert opinions. And then I would be there offering my opinion. Then the other people would be there. Rameshwar would be there sometimes. And then we would go over it until we were all in agreement that we had exactly what the pastime required. Then we would start the painting. And then we would send the sketches, then we'd send the painting and some of the sketches to Srila Prabhupada, and that we would wait until Prabhupada approved them before we continued on with the painting. And this was based on, instead of one painting every 2 months by 3 artists, this was one painting every month by 14 artists. So that was quite a jump forward in terms of quantities of paintings. So we were able to illustrate a whole canto within a couple of months. Actually, less than that, because they didn't really want so many paintings. So anyhow, that's what we would do. So you see, so what I did was I took the concept of Istagosti and took it and made it into idea meetings and development meetings in the art department. And when people came in off the stretch, they made their idea sketch. They didn't usually stay long enough to make a development sketch or anything like that. If they had, we would have kept them in the art department. But we had them as part of the idea stage because we didn't want anybody being an observer. We wanted everyone to be a participant. What is Krishna Loka? It is participation. What are the Bhaktivedantas interpolating under the care of Narada Muni's mother during the rainy season? They were interpolating. They were participating together. They were not observing each other. They weren't just sitting there with their chin on their hands waiting till it was their turn to talk. No, they were all taking part. Interpolating means vibrating in transcendental ecstasy. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's original one from India, you'll see the word interpolating used, and it's a magnificent word. Because it perfectly describes the mood of an Uttama Adhikari in ecstasy in the midst of Krishna's pastimes. Okay, so anyhow, that is the explanation, in my opinion, of an example of a very developed, not just one meeting Istagosti, like once a month Istagosti or once a week Istagosti. This was like, in the art department, this was once every few days Istagosti. And it worked out very beautifully. So much so that I coined a new phrase for the type of art we were producing calling it Neo-Vedic art, because it was basically a combination between classical European art technique and painting materials, as well as Vedic culture and Prabhupada's Shilpa Shastra explanations of the proportions and colors of the clothes of the gopis and Radharani and Krishna, and the number of finger knuckles of everything's length. Everything is measured in finger knuckles. So if you bend your finger and you have a knuckle, it's about an inch. So everything was measured that way in Krishna, by the devotees who painted pictures of Krishna since time began. Okay, there we go. So where else are we?
Okay, the final line. You can look up Istagosti in the database and find some of the letters in which Srila Prabhupada mentioned Istagosti.
So I've given some idea there what it was about, and how the sneaky part was that devotees wanted a letter from Prabhupada. Prabhupada actually ended up unable to write, is it not, why should he write that many letters? So he told us to have Istagosti. Then he would comment on the conclusion of the Istagosti once we had sent what we thought was the right answers to Prabhupada. Very nice thing. Very nice experience. So in one letter that Prabhupada wrote, he was encouraging us to have Istagostis. It was before I joined, I believe. And in that letter, he then exclaimed, Istagosti, exclamation, ... Then the perfection. That's what he said. So we could see that by practicing Istagosti, we could reach spiritual perfection very quickly. So for that reason, the temple presidents and GBCs made Istagosti first almost impossible to participate in or enjoy. And second of all, they eliminated it altogether, because who needs Istagosti when you have a GBC to tell you what to do and think? So is there anybody commenting? Is Ramachandra still there? Probably not, right?
Yeah, he's still here.
What do you say, John Ramachandra? Can you make a wise comment? Is he tuned in?
Yeah. Hold on. I was listening to the conversation with Rupa Manjari Prabhu reading Bobby Hebert's email or message, right? That was the content that we were reading. And then I heard the whole Istagosti discussion.
It's good that I described. So what is your opinion? I mean, this is Istagosti. The League for 10K is basically Istagosti. I talk a lot, but that doesn't mean it's not Istagosti. It just means it's Istagosti and I talk a lot. So
Hey, Mohit just joined.
Who did?
Mohit.
Mohit Prabhu, please accept my prostrated obeisances. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so keep going, Ramachandra. We need your wisdom.
So as you know, different people have different understandings, but when you ask them certain questions, they don't answer the question, So it's very hard for them. I mean, I think you asked Bobby Hebert Prabhu or Vishwakarma Prabhu to answer some basic questions, but I think he did not answer it, or maybe he doesn't want to answer it.
He doesn't want to answer it.
Yeah, so they cannot have, there cannot be any discussion, So
well, he used to be a GBC, which means if he had an Istagosti, he sat down and told everybody what to think. So
you're right.
Then he was a temple president. If he had an Istagosti, the same thing. He told everybody what, he lined them all up, and you'd stand at the microphone and tell them what to think.
Yeah. I mean, that does not work actually, because I mean,
so because of that, he says, I don't know. So that's his idea.
Well, that's not really a way to have a discussion. That if everyone is spirit soul and someone says something, then let's have a discussion based on what he's saying. Yeah, there has to be some
Exactly.
conclusion out of that discussion.
Somebody even
So
wrote to Bobby Hebert on that effect. I said something and he put me down insultingly, and the other guy wrote and said, well, why didn't you answer the question that he raised? They asked Bobby Hebert, why don't you answer his question? No reply
yeah,
from Bobby Hebert.
yeah, if someone is a big temple president and then if he carries over that mentality over to the Istagoshti program, he might have some difficulty in, being not a temple president in that atmosphere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, then he becomes a big rock and roll promotionalist.
Vinayak Sharma just joined.
Vinayak Sharma, Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. May you join this circle of coward boys.
Haribol, please accept my humble obeisances of Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. We had a
So,
glitch the last couple of sessions, but hopefully we won't have any more glitches in the future.
yeah, I was not able to attend last couple of sessions. So.
Yeah. So anyhow, just be sure to encourage everybody that you think would be interested to join the Istagosti. Tell them that if they have a lot, that we hope they have a lot to say, because if they don't, I'll probably end up talking too much. So tell them this is their big chance to be equal to a person that talks too much. Namely
Yeah,
me. I'm just kidding. If people want to hear what I have to say, I'm not going to say no, but I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear what you have to say, Vinayak and Mohit and Ramachandra.
I was just having something in my mind to speak, but I just forgot. So maybe later, if I remember, then I'll ask.
Yes, of course. Ask or make your statement based on Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. You know,
Yes,
Krishna
yes.
consciousness is not a question of simply blindly quoting books. Krishna consciousness is a process of trying to understand even one statement from the books and then make that your life and soul. It's not that you have to become a scholar and read, and then you can out convince anybody else based on what you've read. That's not it. That's not our philosophy. That's what Bobby Hebert wants, but I don't go for it myself.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes I was just thinking this thing like generally these kinds of activities like charity and these things are very much popular among people, and they
yeah,
seem to like it. And in India, like these Bangalore guys, they have done a quite nice thing like under this charity. They made an organization which distributes free prasadam everywhere, and they got lot of government support, and also they spread all over India, like this ISKCON Bangalore guys. So I was just thinking about how about doing this kind of thing, like food distribution, free food
well, you
distribution.
know, we can do, but take into account that's temple activity or group activity, community activity. That is to put prasadam distribution can be done by a community of devotees. Istagosti is simply where you sit down and put your talents, including your cooking ability, at the door, and you come in simply to express doubt. If you have a doubt, this is the time to express it, because we're all equals in Istagosti. We're all jivas. So as jivas in Istagosti, if you have a doubt, express it, and we can address your doubt. Okay?
Yeah, because
You understand? So as far as the temple readings, book reading, temple book prasadam distribution, whatever, that should go on in any event. But Istagosti is a rare thing. Remember, this is the league for 10K. We are ostensibly discussing what will it take for Krishna consciousness to survive for the next 10,000 years. I'm dealing with a former GBC fellow, used to be the Montreal temple president, who wants to say that ISKCON is finished and it must be destroyed. I am saying that if you destroy ISKCON, you will destroy your devotional creeper, because Prabhupada created ISKCON. It's
Who
easier.
is he, Prabhu?
What?
Who is he?
I can't understand.
What's his name?
Oh, Bobby Hebert. Vishwakarma. He used to be the temple president of Montreal. And he was a big GBC also. So he's still caught up in the mentality of how to be in control of people and make them think your way of thinking. And I'm personally the opposite. I am in favor of free thought and free speech according to Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. We need to have free thought and free speech from everybody. I'm not asking people to believe me. I'm asking people to, if they wish, not even ask them to listen to me. If they want to listen to me, say something, they're welcome to do so. If they have another view which is different, they're welcome to express it. If they want to express a different view, they should be prepared to defend their point of view if there's reason to believe it isn't authentic. So you see, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, so I just remembered, like from your present statement, I just remembered the question that I was about to ask today. So yeah, this thing I wanted to ask about, like from our experiences about because we have discussed this thing that most of the guys in our group, like the Prabhupada Anugas, they have a different
Rupa,
groups.
I can't quite understand what Vinayak is saying. So could you help me?
Okay. So I'm now speaking more properly. I'm trying to speak. So am I properly audible to you, Prabhu?
I'm trying to hear.
Okay.
Can you speak a
So,
little bit slowly, Vinayak?
okay. So I speak slowly. So
Yes.
generally in the groups of Prabhupada Anugas, there have been like discussions that some of these groups are too much bureaucratic or controlling in one sense. But I have seen this thing that in order to make organizations properly function, we need some kind of control over the members. Otherwise, it is very difficult to engage them into services and to work collectively. We
Well, of
always
course,
need some leader.
yes, of course, that's true. But when the leaders can lead the temple, but when he sits down in Istagosti, he is just a jiva, no longer leader. In Istagosti, for 1 hour or 2 hours, he can sit down and become one equal to everyone, because we are all equal jivas to everybody, right? But then when he's a temple president or leader, then he can be seriously powerful and rough or whatever he is, you know? You see, it's not that we have to have Istagosti mood in the temple at all times. Only in ISKCON, one second. Sorry. In ISKCON, we used to have Istagosti once a week. So everyone would sit down and talk, bring up their Istagosti points. We would write them down. We would discuss them. We try to reach conclusions in the group based on Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. And then we'd send those off to Srila Prabhupada for his approval. But that had nothing to do with the temple president, temple commander, whoever has got a job in donating money. It had nothing to do with any of that. As soon as the Istagosti is over, the temple commander said, okay, brahmacharis, get to bed, it's late. And he has to be followed. But during the Istagosti, he can't say that to anybody, because everyone in Istagosti is an equal. In Istagosti, that's 2 hours a week. You see?
Yeah, that's very much practical because I
But in the daily activity of the temple,
sorry, some
who's
of the
ever in charge of
Prabhupada
the
knows.
temple, he should be a smart enough and humble enough devotee to know how to speak with people to gain their enthusiastic participation without trying to force them at all. Right?
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Like it's much more practical because earlier, like there, I was asking this question because earlier there have been some discussions in which like we tend to like there were some criticisms about some groups of Prabhupada Anugas who has been excessively bureaucratic in their
They're
work.
being what?
Uh, Excessively bureaucratic or controlling their subordinates. So
Yeah, but
some
in Istagosti, they can't do that. They can do
yeah,
it,
so
but not in Istagosti.
yeah, so basically, like they must have a hierarchical structure, but on the same time, they should also have these goshtis every week.
Exactly. Because if a person is very autocratic and very bossy during the week and he creates a system of hierarchy of bossy people, then when they all go to Istagosti once every week, they learn that they shouldn't be that way anymore. Then when he goes back to being bossy, how can he help but not be less bossy? You see what I mean?
Yeah, and one more thing, I just got this it might be like kind of out of the context about what we were discussing just now,
Can you go more
but
slowly, Prabhu? Because
okay.
I hard to understand. If you go more slowly, it's better.
Okay, so I also remembered one more thing that I wished to talk, and it might be quite out of the context about whatever we were talking just now, but it was regarding these things. Like there have been some of the evidences in literatures like Bhajanamrita and these others where they say that there have been prescriptions about what to do when your spiritual master falls down. And
Rupa, can you help with that? I couldn't quite grasp most of it.
yeah. Is
Or
there someone who is
Ramachandra,
able
maybe you
to hear me
understand.
clearly?
Did you understand? And Ramachandra, why not answer the point if you're there?
No, I'm not complete.
I know, but we
I'll
can't
try to
understand.
speak
We
again.
can't understand what you're saying.
Okay, I'll try to speak again. So
Okay,
yeah,
Rupa, can you? Are you
I'm,
there,
Hare,
Rupa?
I'm listening. I'm trying to catch what he's saying.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'll translate for you, bro. Let Vinayak Prabhu complete, then I'll translate. Vinayak Prabhu, go ahead.
okay, so now I'm on a different audio device, so maybe my voice is much more clear now.
It is.
Okay, so yeah, so there have been some of the people in ISKCON, they have tried to do this thing they take examples from these Goswami literatures like Krishna Bhajanamrita and some Narhari Thakur's compilations in which they try to explain that what to do
Are
if
those
Guru
published
falls
by
down.
Srila Prabhupada?
No, I'm just trying to
No. Are
complete
those
what
books that
I
they
want to
quote,
ask.
are they published by Prabhupada?
No, not published by Prabhupada, but still, if we need to counter them, then we must have a rational part also, so
But
that
we
we can
cannot
discuss.
use them. We cannot use those scriptures unless they're Prabhupada's translation. We can only use Prabhupada's books. We cannot use anybody else's books.
Yeah.
Prabhupada published millions of books. Why do we have to go somewhere else?
Oh, that's all right in one sense, but like that could also be seen in this way, that in earlier times also there used to be some pretenders who pretended themselves as the pure devotees, and they became gurus. So therefore in those times these Goswamis, they wrote about prescriptions about what to do for a sincere soul, like what a sincere person
Okay.
should do if
Is
he
that it
figures out
published in
that
the, is
his
that
spiritual
published in the
master is
Chaitanya,
fallen.
is that published in the Chaitanya Charitamrita?
I don't know about that. I
If
have
it
not
is, then
read.
we can use it. If it isn't, then we can't. As far as there being
Yeah,
bogus
that's
gurus,
also.
there are more bogus gurus per square inch in this world than there are anybody else. Bogus guru, everybody's a bogus guru. The man in his house that bullies his family, he's a bogus guru.
Yeah, so maybe historically also, like because they bring these literature, so maybe in those times also there used to be bogus gurus. For
Yeah,
dear
so if they
disciples, these
bring some other
literatures and
literature,
prescriptions
say
were
that's
there.
very nice, but you cannot use it in an ISKCON temple because Prabhupada didn't translate it. How did they know
Yeah,
if the translation is any good? What if the translation is bogus?
your translation could be bogus. There is a big possibility. Because even the Dhamvasi Vaishnavas, like the people who born in Dhama, who learnt Bengali since childhood, even they misinterpret Shastras and made Sahajiya Sampradayas.
So we do
So
not have
what
any
to say about
connection.
these
Our
Westerners?
process is simple. We're not into books. We're not into philosophical argument. We're into chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and Sankirtan in the streets. So these people are busy with books from here and there and different. They try to pose themselves as an authority because I have this book or that book or some other book. Those books are wonderful, but the point is we're meant to be out in the street chanting. Are these people leading people every day in the street chanting? These guys with the books. Do they take
No,
devotees out every day chanting in the street?
like even most of the Prabhupada Nagas are also not chanting. So basically,
So the whole
okay.
thing is pointless. The only reason to read a book is to chant. That's Prabhupada said it quite clearly. The only reason I have written my books is so people understand why to chant.
Yeah.
So if they read books and they don't chant, then they're bogus. It's just as bogus or maybe more bogus than the persons that they're criticizing. So they're using the other Shastra from other Sampradaya or other branches of our Sampradaya that Prabhupada did not translate. If they wanted Prabhupada to translate those books, they shouldn't have poisoned him to death. Because they poisoned him. Because they poisoned him to death, he could not even finish the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said he would. He said he would finish the Srimad Bhagavatam, minimum. And one time I overheard him exclaimed in Bombay, sort of like an astral sort of Narada Muni sort of voice from the cloud sort of voice, saying, I could have done so much more. Ramayan, Mahabharat, he said. He was lamenting that he didn't get to chew those, whereas, in fact, he was not able to finish the Srimad Bhagavatam. He couldn't even finish the 10th canto, 11th canto, or 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that means our entire 10,000 years of golden age of Kali, everyone is afflicted by his having been murdered by Tamal and others. Bhavananda, Jayapataka, murdered. So that what? So they could sit on a seat. Why didn't they simply wait? They could sit on a seat. But because they wanted to enjoy, because they were into lust, they wanted to enjoy their sexuality at a young age sitting on a guru seat, not just sit on a seat in my old age like some funky old Gaudiya Math guy. No, they wanted to have fun now, be young gurus and attract attractive boys or girls or whatever they were into to have sex with them. And they did. That's why they did it. So go ahead. Ashok. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, like whatever has been done has been done. So now we can think about next 10,000 years.
Yes. So next 10,000 years must be predominated by chanting Sankirtan. Not that we are going to sit down and study books while the people go to hell. But what will be the result if we study, and people do not become pure devotees?
Nowadays, it's quite difficult for some people because like they are at offices working. All they can do is like weekend sankirtanas and these things.
So they must go out chanting Prabhupada's melodies, I should add, chanting only
On
Prabhupada
weekends.
melodies, the way we used to do in 1969 on the streets. Mr. John, myself, and others, we would go out with parties, altogether 30, 40 devotees chanting on the street. And we'd take different vehicles, vans, we'd stuff people in. They didn't care much about seatbelts in those days.
Yeah, Prabhu, actually, I saw some videos of those times. There were also melodies that were not, maybe they were Prabhupada's melodies, but we don't hear them like in popular Prabhupada.
Well, which ones are you talking about? Sometimes Vishnu John would chant other melodies he liked.
Yeah, like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Was that as early as 1969?
I don't know the year, but it was during Prabhupada's time. I saw it in
During
a Rath
Prabhupada's
Yatra.
time, they created the most horrible, ugly melodies imaginable. And Rupa Manjari, can you give the quote? Rupa?
What quote?
That Prabhupada made, somebody wrote how Prabhupada said to stop the kirtan and only chant his kirtan.
Yeah, that was Nanda Kumar said that.
So explain, can you bring that to the meeting?
Yeah, Nanda Kumar was Prabhupada's servant, and he talked about how Srila Prabhupada would overhear them having kirtan using different melodies, and he would come downstairs and stop the kirtan or correct the kirtan leader that they should chant the melodies that have been given by him.
Oh.
Yes. And why not? When Prabhupada chanted, he's chanting from Krishna Loka. When they chant, they're chanting from some drug-infested marijuana den.
Yeah, they are imitating some movie songs or these albums.
Yeah. So we should listen to Prabhupada chanting. His chanting is always perfect. We don't have to listen to people that are imperfect making a bad job of chanting.
There is also like one more that Revati Nandan Prabhu also gave some instructions like about how Prabhupada gave instructions of kirtans. He told this much that the whatever melody is there, you should keep the melody, like you should not have very elongated melodies. The melody should be short so that the entire mantra could be heard at the same time. And
who said that?
Revati Nandana Prabhu.
Okay.
That the melody should be short, so that sometimes they try to make very very long melodies in which the one part of the mantra is somewhere and another part is somewhere. sometimes they break the mantra, like they start sing one like Hare Krishna, then everybody sing Hare Krishna, and like this they break the mantra. Sometimes they
So where do they get it?
from their
What
mind.
authority? By what authority did they do that?
I don't
Authority.
know.
Well, they did it and nobody stopped them. What in 1960, in 1970, in New York City, we would have a kirtan with about 60, 70, 80 devotees in it sometimes. And the person would be leading the kirtan. If he strayed even slightly from the melody of Srila Prabhupada, someone would go up and tell him to straighten it out. It was not allowed to chant melodies that were not Prabhupada's melodies.
So, do you remember, Prabhu, like how many melodies were there of Srila Prabhupada approximately?
There were not that many, half a dozen maybe.
Half a dozen? That's too many. Like I only know 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, there's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Then there's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Yeah.
And
two.
then
That one. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
that's the
Hare
morning melody.
Rama, Hare Rama.
That's the morning melody for everything chanted in the morning.
Yeah, before Bhagavatam class.
Well, that's the morning.
And this is third one. These 3 I know.
Okay, then it's Prabhupada chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He used to chant like that too.
This is 4th. One more I remember. Like it is like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Now that's his original melody that he taught, the first one.
Oh, in 67, 68?
No, 66, 65, 66. He was in New York. He said he taught everyone to chant in the New York temple. There was a storefront called Matchless Gifts, and he would have people come in for class, and we'd begin by kirtan, and that's the melody he would use.
And what's the 6th one?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, one more melody remaining.
Okay.
He's asking you for the final melody.
One more melody, yeah, one more remaining. This like we discussed 5 today.
Did we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare? Did we do that melody?
Yeah, we
Hare
did that.
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yeah, this was 4th one that we discussed.
Okay. I can't think of another one right now.
What about taking
But
melodies
you
from
can find
Vaishnava
all of
songs?
Prabhupada's melodies. Just go on the database, just go onto his recordings and listen to him chanting them himself.
Yeah.
In fact,
And
I recommend that. I think that ISKCON should stop any chanting except listening to Prabhupada on earbuds or headphones a couple hours a day. New devotees, they just learn Prabhupada first time the way he chants, then have a kirtan in the temple, those melodies that they just heard on the headphones, then go out in the streets and blow everybody away with the wonderful sound vibration of Prabhupada's kirtan sound vibration.
Yeah, and how about taking melodies from Vaishnava songs like Gaura Arti? like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Did you
So
ever
how
hear
about,
Prabhupada? Did Prabhupada
yeah,
chant
yeah.
like that? You
He
heard him?
chanted Gaur Aarti in this melody.
Okay, then it's bona fide.
So yeah, so if we take melodies from Vaishnava songs, then that's okay, ne?
Yeah, anything that Prabhupada chanted is bona fide. Anything Prabhupada did not chant is not bona fide. It's pretty simple, huh? How can something be genuine if Prabhupada did not present it?
Yeah. Makes sense.
So it'd be good to have a complete list of Prabhupada's bona fide melodies. Perhaps you could do it. Just make a list. You could even have a list of Prabhupada chanting his original melodies.
Yeah, we just had a list on this, like Ishtagoshti. Maybe it's
Perfect.
It's live on YouTube.
Exactly. So we should broadcast. These are the melodies Prabhupada chanted. If you chant something else, you're in the clutches of Maya. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, Prabhu.
Why should we listen to someone who's not from Krishna Loka? And then people making up their own melodies here and there, they're just doing that like rock stars to become individually popular. I mean, in the 1960s, all 70s, the 70s, rock and roll, acid rock, all that, all those rock and roll musicians, they all created their own melodies.
Sometimes they tend to say that, oh, Prabhu, your melodies are very old.
And so when people came and learned to chant Hare Krishna, they thought they should become like rock musicians so everyone would know that it was them chanting and not somebody else. But that's not bona fide. We're supposed to sound like our spiritual master.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's easier also for me because like maintaining beats of mridanga with the kirtan is kind of difficult.
And Prabhupada teaches Mridanga online. You can go online and listen to his Mridanga lesson. It's with the bass and the treble heads. Tau tanakade tijate on the bass on the left side. Ting ta with your fingers on the upper side. Tau tanakade tijate ting ta. And no need to go bum 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 making noises with a poor mridanga. Sacred instrument being turned into a African tom-tom. But why? Where's the reasoning for that?
No reason for that.
Exactly. So that's why Prabhupada wanted us to chant the way he chanted. And then, can you stop to think of it? Where will you find a guru and disciple relationship where the disciple does not want to do what the guru is teaching and wants to do something else his own way? How can a disciple be called a disciple? Disciple is based on the word discipline. Discipline means you do what the guru does. That's your discipline. Then you become disciple by doing what the guru does. But no, you want to make up your own. That is such Mayavadi nonsense.
Yeah, we can find that in ISKCON.
How?
We can find that relationship in ISKCON.
And find what? I didn't quite catch. Rupa, what did he say?
He said we can find that relationship in ISKCON.
What? Which one? good or bad?
Yeah, the guru and disciple relationship in which disciple does not listen
Oh
to
yeah,
guru.
whoever takes
Yeah.
initiation from Prabhupada gives his life and soul to his spiritual master. Not that he just gets a pat on the head and now he can go and be his own guru. That's not the point. He gives his life and soul to the spiritual master. Is that what you were indicating? Is that right, Rupa?
I'm not sure.
Rupa? Oh, what did he say? That they people take initiation and act like jerks, or that the people take initiation and become surrendered to Prabhupada?
Yeah.
We know that right now they're acting like jerks. There's no question of it.
Yes.
Who joined us just now?
And so Prabhu, like I gotta go. Like I cannot speak anymore. So thank you,
Prabhu,
Prabhu.
you were wonderful. Please accept my prostrated
Please
obeisances.
accept my prostrated
Oh,
obedience.
glorious. Please come and speak more, speak louder, speak with great
I
intelligence.
wish to.
You have this great cyber IQ. Use it perfectly in Krishna consciousness.
I want to use it. So please
Well,
bless.
It's the League for 10K is where you can use it so that in 5,000 years from now, what you say will still be working if you are fulfilling Prabhupada's desire. Can you imagine if what you say today is being quoted 5,000 years from now in support of Prabhupada, surrendering to Prabhupada? And all the nonsense people, they'll be rotting in Pataloka by that time. You realize what's going to happen to these gurus, don't you? They're taking on the karma of hundreds or thousands of people. Then when they die, they have to go through the experience. It's like I took a birth, previous life, I died in the previous life, take this birth in this lifetime, and then I will die and take a birth again in another lifetime. But what if you take on a 100 or 1,000 people's karma that you have to take birth for? They're not pure devotees. They can't purify the people they initiate. So they have to take birth after birth after birth after birth, or they have to go to hell and be surrounded by all the tormented souls that they initiated. People take initiation from these rascals. What will happen to the rascal? What will happen to the person who takes initiation? You say, well, he's just a fool. Okay, he's just a fool. But a fool is responsible for his actions, isn't he? If only a fool will cross on a red light walking in front of heavy traffic and he gets hit by a car. Why did he get hit by a car? He was a fool. He crossed on the red light. So that's what happens to people who take initiation from bogus gurus. They are fools because they've given themselves to someone who cannot deliver them. Okay, does that make sense? So Hare Krishna Prabhu. Who's still here?
We've got 2 minutes to go.
It
2
makes
minutes.
sense, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Who's talking?
It's me, Prabhu. Haribol. Mohit. How's it
Mohit
been going?
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
I
Prabhu.
can see your
Yeah,
picture,
Prabhu.
but I always like it when I can see you in person.
Oh, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu. I'm in
Oh,
person.
there you are. Very nice. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jai. Oh, glorious to Prabhupada. Please do accept
Oh,
my
yeah.
obeisances. Glorious to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, Prabhu.
We're all servants. We're all jivas. Jiva means servant. There's no other definition of jiva than servant. So a person that says, oh, I'm a pure devotee, meaning I'm a pure jiva, therefore surrender to me and take my and give me money and bow down to my feet, he's a rascal. Because the jiva is the servant. And if he becomes self-realized servant, he will not tell anyone to bow down to him.
Exactly, Prabhu. Yeah.
He said, I bow down to you, not that you bow down to me.
Yes, bro. Of
Makes sense?
course, it makes sense. Everything from your mouth makes sense, Prabhu. Because you're following Prabhupada as it is.
Yeah.
That's the real source of energy which is coming there, right?
Yeah, that's the
That's what you
entire
get
thing,
power.
isn't it? Without Prabhupada, what is there?
Nothing is there without
Ramachandra.
Prabhupada.
Okay,
Yeah.
Prabhu, I'm sorry. What did you say?
No,
I
I
interrupted you.
mean, Prabhu, if we follow Sanatan Dharma, so it's very important to follow Prabhupada's footstep. Everything is what Prabhupada has given it to us. If
Yeah,
you just follow it purely, you'll get the real sense
yeah.
of bhakti. Yeah,
So all this organization, GBC, rock and
yeah.
roll bands, rock and roll kirtans, completely out the window. It is
It
no
sucks,
use
Prabhu.
in it at all.
It's all time waste and sucks, Prabhu. After being like 2-3 years, you'll get to know that what's going on, and then you'll have to leave. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Then you'll lose your digestion, you'll lose your eyesight, you'll lose your nerves. Why? Because you're offending Krishna.
Okay,
Maybe
exactly.
you think you're a devotee.
it's 10 p.m.
Okay. We did start 15 minutes late, but I won't make an issue out of that. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Is Ramachandra here?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm still here. So thank you very
Okay,
much,
can you
Rupa
make some
Manjari, for
wonderful,
hosting.
make some closing, that was great, wasn't she? Why not make some closing statements?
Jai. So Narayan Prabhu has said it, we're here to glorify Srila Prabhupada and promote the Acharya descending from Krishna Loka. We're not here to promote any other living being. All these questionable people who are so-called gurus, appointed gurus, we have nothing to do with them. The only person that we care about is Srila Prabhupada and his original books, what he has written, and how he wanted things to be run for the next 10,000 years. The direction of management is there, the topmost urgency letter is there, Prabhupada's original books are there. So these are the things we stand for. What they have made out of ISKCON is, it's more of a distraction than helping people.
Yeah,
So
and they discover it, but their solution is just as bad as the problem.
yeah,
It's more of a corporate world, Prabhu. Just
Yeah.
just say it's more of a corporate company which they are running, right, Prabhu? You need to
Well,
join, you need to
the
follow the
thing
rules, and then
there's two
Yeah.
entities. There's ISKCON and there's the GBC.
Yeah.
So we want to eradicate the GBC because they were never elected, and they're meant to be elected for 3-year terms from temple presidents. Get
Yeah,
rid of
Prabhu.
the GBC. They're the cause of the child molestation. They're the cause of the lawsuits. They're the cause of embezzlement of money, and they're the cause of all these ridiculous, infantile, guru-like kinestheticaries who are simply preparing themselves for a hellish birth in the next life by taking on the karma of thousands. So that's them, GBC. ISKCON came from Krishna Loka because of Prabhupada. If Prabhupada spoke a word, that word comes from Krishna Loka. If he speaks 6 syllables, letters, ISKCON, that comes from Krishna Loka,
Uh,
right?
Very good.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
So if that comes from Krishna Loka, how can someone say ISKCON must be destroyed? And that's what Bobby Hebert and his friends are saying. ISKCON must be
Prabhu,
destroyed. So Ramachandra, could you do me a 100% favor? This is all going to be recorded on one of your little recordings.
Yes.
Could you be sure that Bobby Hebert gets a copy with a cover note saying this is directly for Bobby Hebert?
Well, I've talked to Bobby Hebert. He doesn't want ISKCON destroyed. He wants ISKCON to be rectified. So I'm not sure if
That's
that is
not what he tells me.
Oh, okay. So,
He says the ISKCON must be destroyed.
okay. So yeah, I talked to him, and he's, he doesn't, at least from my talking with him, he doesn't want to destroy ISKCON because that's his spiritual master's institution. What they call ISKCON right now, it's not Prabhupada's ISKCON. So maybe
Well,
that's
of
what
course
he
it's
wants to
Prabhupada's
destroy.
ISKCON. Just like if I have a house and
Yes.
it's filled with rats, it doesn't make it a rat house. It means it's a beautiful house that has rats in it.
Yeah, it's probably just a communication thing, or some misunderstanding. So I
Yeah,
will.
he says, he writes in this essay here, ISKCON is not created in Krishna Loka. It is a branch of the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. Well, where does Lord Chaitanya come from? Mars? Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna. Duh.
Oh, yeah.
We know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how can he say
Yeah,
not created in Krishna Loka? Krishna Loka is wherever Krishna is.
Right.
Are we going to say that Krishna Loka is somewhere so far away that you can't even talk about it? So by the way, is Rupa, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm hosting. I'm still here.
You're hosting, so we're going to have to get off the line.
Yes.
And Ramachandra, could you call me right after the meeting and maybe you can clarify what your meeting with Hebert is, because he's been writing the ugly stuff today.
Okay, so let's end it here, Rupa Manjari Prabhu. Thank you very much for hosting and doing this service, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Very
you're
much
welcome.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Haribol.
Good night, everyone.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Bye.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Mohitji, Hare
All
Krishna.